The decimation of the rebel fleet at Makota was a massive setback to the operation plans of the Rebel Alliance, on par with the Imperial setback of the destruction of the Death Star. From now on, they could no longer go on the offensive, and with Vader's main goal reached, he unleashed his forces across the galaxy. Welcome to the Wizards and Warriors channel. We're glad to have you with us for our next story from the Star Wars universe, and the next installment in the Galactic Civil War series. So please get comfortable, put your favorite Cantina music on, and check for Wampus under your bed as we begin our retelling of the long campaign that would come to be known as the Mid-Rim Retreat, and the next decisive battle of the war on the cold plains of Hoth. Now, a certain Mr. Vader manages to get people to call him Lord Vader, which sounds pretty good, and we want you to know you can actually get the same treatment yourself with our sponsor, Established Titles. They sell small plots of land in Scotland, which are sought after because of a historic Scottish custom where landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. But to protect these lands, a tree is planted with every order, preserving picturesque woodland and biodiversity, and Established Titles supports charities like One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future. You'll get at least 1 square foot of land in Scotland, with a unique plot number and a certificate to prove it. This allows you to officially get Lord or Lady on your credit cards, plane tickets, and more. You can also get maps to show your new estate, including the immensely detailed, hand-drawn 1611 map by John Speed, held by the National Library of Scotland. It makes a great last-minute gift, and they even have couple packs that come with adjoining plots of land. And by the way, the first 200 plots bought via our link will all be put together within a few minutes of each other next to the Wizards and Warriors plot. So if you want to join this little kingdom we're forming out there, get in fast. Check out their fall sale for discounts, plus if you use our code WIZARDS, you'll get an extra 10% off. Go to establishedtitles.com/wizards to get yourself a title or give it as a gift and help support the channel. After the disastrous ambush at Makota, Mon Mothma ordered the Rebel Alliance to once again go back to the separate fight strategy they had used before the Battle of Yavin. This meant the cancellation of all rebel offensives, a defensive stance once again was taken, and minor guerrilla-style operations were the order of the day. While on paper this seemed to be easy, the reality of it was much different, as the largest campaign, that of the one within the Mid-Rim, had been going on for 9 months, and this new order turned everything around. The early accounts of the rebel offensive are lost to us, as is much of the retreat and actions taken during the remaining months of 2ABY. But from what we do know, this was a colossal undertaking. Not only did the Rebel Alliance bring vast amounts of spacecraft and material to bear, but as they pushed forward and liberated worlds, they also fortified them and were connected with the independent native rebel cells, helping to establish governments on the planets and supplying them, making any withdrawal a long and arduous process. To this end, they ordered a number of battle companies to screen their retreat as the fleet withdrew from the Mid-Rim, accompanied begrudgingly by some of the native rebels, with many instead remaining. The one we know the most about in this campaign, and the one we'll be following, is the 61st Mobile Infantry under Captain Mika Ivan, which formed both the vanguard in the offensive stage and would be the rearguard in the retreat. They are better known by their second name, Twilight Company. Battle companies such as Twilight Company were not your standard infantry unit. Being designated as mobile, they were used as infiltrators and were equipped as such, having a number of fast corvettes to move them from planet to planet, making any attempt to take a system from them a time-consuming task. Twilight Company was equipped with one CR-90 corvette, known as Thunderstrike, which served as their HQ, one Brahatok-class gunship called Apilana's Promise, accompanied by 2 X-Wing fighters, and a number of smaller landcraft. The company's strategy was very similar to the rest of the mobile units, in that each operation was a distraction, but a distraction that couldn't be ignored, such as the seizure of depots or positions on a front line. These dangerous missions led to high casualty rates, but made these men deadly fighters. Their mobility and equipment made them forces that couldn't be ignored. This, coupled with native resistance, from which they drew most of their recruits, made them extremely formidable. As Captain Ivan put it, Twilight Company is fighting for the heart of the galaxy, for the spirit of every ordinary man and woman and Imperial stormtrooper. Stealing food won't help us win. Killing enemies won't either. Against might on the scale of the Empire, conventional victory is impossible. When our objectives become purely military, we've already lost. In this they did well, as we can see their progress during the initial offensive of the campaign has taken much of the Mid-Rim in little more than a year. Twilight Company followed this same strategy throughout much of the retreat as well, targeting Imperial-occupied planets in need, and then moving to the next once the rescue was complete. They became so proficient at it that they delayed the Empire for nearly 2 years, allowing much of the fleet and their allies to escape various outposts. But by the middle of 3 ABY, much of the Mid-Rim had been taken back by the Empire save for the last outer remnants. During these last fights, namely the attack on Hyderul Prime, they gained an unexpected ally in the Imperial Governor of the planet, Avery Chalice. She would provide critical intel for Twilight Company, which they would use to great effect in the Coyote campaign, defeating the Imperial garrison there and destroying a biotoxin that would have been deadly for the native Coyote. They would do a number of missions after this, but with the main commander of the retreat, General Amrashad, being killed, and with most of their forces pulled out, they followed suit, heading to the rebel Echo base on Hoth. The Mid-Rim retreat was over. The main fleet during all of this time had still been searching for a new base, hopping from system to system while avoiding Vader's relentless search. They were still undergoing various small-scale missions to other planets so as to undermine the Empire and serve as a distraction for the main fleet. One of these missions was directed towards Shu Torun, as it was a valuable planet for the Empire. The mission would be a success, temporarily knocking it out of commission for the Empire, and it resulted in the death of Queen Trios, the catalyst for their defeat at Makota. Eventually, the rebels were able to make a base and settled for Hoth, an ice planet in the Outer Rim. The base itself had been in the works for years, but this residence as HQ had only been a month old by the time the retreat in the Mid-Rim ended, showing just how long they'd been on the run and how hotly Vader was on their tail. With their forces pulled out and everyone hidden more or less, the rebels called a conference at Hoth to hear the defector Avery Chalice's information on the Imperial war machine, so as to understand the Imperial strategy and plan their next move, the first offensive operation in nearly 2 years. But they wouldn't get their chance. Soon after this meeting ended, a probe was downed at the Cien range, not far from Echo Base, by Han Solo and Chewbacca while they were on a routine scouting operation. The base commander, General Kalis Rieekan, deduced that this must have been an Imperial probe, and taking Solo's advice, ordered code K-10, the base evacuation protocol. This probe, classed as Viper Probe XJ9CS14, was indeed an Imperial probe and was part of Project Swarm, which had started not long after the Battle of Yavin in search for the newest rebel base, and whilst it failed to find the second base at Makota, it would reap fruits now. It belonged to the Death Squadron, which proved to be the rebellion's ever-vengeful nemesis. Death Squadron had been scouting the nearby area since they ambushed a rebel convoy at Dera, and was alerted by increased rebel activity in the region. The squadron's makeup at this time was certainly formidable, as they were led as always by Darth Vader himself, supported by the commander of the fleet, Admiral Kendall Ozzel, and Flag Captain Firmus Piet. All three were on the flagship, an Executor-class Star Dreadnought named the Executor, and were accompanied by Vader's personal ship, a 1-class Star Destroyer, the Devastator, and 3 2-class Star Destroyers, among them Tyrant and Avenger. This was of course supplemented with a large number of starfighters and ground forces, among these the infamous 501st Legion, also known as Vader's Fist. The rebel forces stationed on Hoth, meanwhile, had much of their fleet, such as the Mon Color cruisers, elsewhere as mobile units, as they deemed putting them in a permanent base again too risky. So most of their forces were ground troops and craft to support them. Commander of the base was the aforementioned General Kalis Rieekan, and under him General Organa and Commander Skywalker. They were supplemented with 30 GR-75 transports, a moderate number of wing fighters such as T-65B X-Wing starfighters, BTL-A4 Y-Wing bombers, and T-47 airspeeders. Among these were Luke's Rogue Squadron and various others. Having been able to send the information it gathered before it initiated its self-destruct sequence, the Imperial probe had alerted Avenger as to the location of a power generator on Hoth, which Captain Piet believed was a rebel base. This was denied by Admiral Ozzel, who thought there isn't enough evidence to support that, believing it to be a smuggler base. Vader, however, overturned Ozzel's order and told the fleet to set a course to Hoth immediately, hoping to surprise the rebels. Meanwhile, on Hoth, there was a hurricane of activity as the rebels began loading their transports, which were stationed at the north entrance of the base. Many of them were initially non-combatants, as many had come for the conference, and the rest were medical staff and family members who had fled Imperial persecution. They had just finished loading the non-combatants when Death Squadron appeared in the system, and General Reekon ordered the base shield to be put up. This was a formidable shield and would resist any attempts made for orbital bombardment, and was in turn protected by a V-150 Planet Defender ion cannon situated on the South Ridge, a powerful gun built as a planetary defense to disable capital ships. Having lost the element of surprise due to Ozzel's coming out of lightspeed too close to the planet, Vader had to settle on a costly ground assault, but not before executing Ozzel and placing the newly promoted Admiral Piet in overall command. The ground assault was to be led by the decorated officer Maximilian Veers, and he was given command of Blizzard Force, an elite unit of the 501st, which was specialized in fighting in cold environments such as Hoth. As they had just arrived to this planet, they had little in the way of scouting information, and settled for landing at a suitable place outside the shield's perimeter, that being the Morsh Moraine. Having landed with the assistance of Gazanti-class cruisers and escorts, the Imperials took a bit longer, as Veers deemed the larger Y-85 Titan dropships to be too vulnerable to attack in Hoth's conditions. During this, the rebels were able to get one of their transports, the Quantum Storm, out, as it escaped with its escort after the ion cannon had disabled the Tyrant. The Imperials had 12 AT-AT Walker groups, with each being given codename Blizzard, with Veers commanding Blizzard 1. Each AT-AT Walker was complemented with several AT-ST Walkers and a number of Snowtrooper squadrons. Blizzard 4's group, under Colonel Stark, attempted to impress Vader by going through the Kharain Valley, but was turned back to the main group after having lost 3 of their walkers due to the treacherous terrain. Blizzard Force eventually emerged from the fog atop the north ridge of the Nev Iceflow, a valley which led directly to Echo Base. Once there, they were able to spot not only Echo Base, but the defences which lay in front of it, and realised that the land defences of the rebels were rather rudimentary. Small trenches, guarded by 1.4 FD P-towers and DF-9 turrets, as they'd been constructed only recently, and were divided into outposts, Beta, Echo and Delta, with the latter being the last before the base. But the soldiers manning them were battle-hardened troops, with some fighting even before the recent Mid-Rim campaigns. However, Outpost Beta was quickly overwhelmed by the swarming AT-ST Walkers and Snowtroopers, and its defenders fell back to Echo. Here the defense held up for a little longer. The rebel infantry knew that they couldn't defeat the AT-ATs with their near-impervious armor, so they resolved to hold up the AT-STs and ground troops. Still, eventually they were also pushed back, having bought the transport's valuable time. As Blizzard Force was now closing in on Outpost Delta, Rebel Command sent their T-47 airspeeders out to stall the AT-ATs, hoping as well that these could destroy them. Among these were Rogue Squadron, with Skywalker in command. They quickly found that their ships too couldn't destroy the slow behemoths that trod ever closer to the base, and settled for attacking the legs in the hopes of stalling them. This led to the destruction of some AT-ATs, 2 of these being Blizzards 2 and 4, as the clever rebels disabled the Walker's legs with a tow cable in one case, and in another, that of Colonel Stark's with a thermal grenade. This caused Veers to begrudgingly accept the rebels as far more competent than he'd anticipated. This heroic defense, however, only delayed the inevitable, as the airspeeders failed and Blizzard 6, 8 and 9 cut through the Delta outpost. A general panic ensued within the base, as command itself went dark, possibly due to a shot from one of the AT-AT Walkers. This led to a frantic retreat to the base, and many rebels were cut down during this. Just as this was going on, Blizzard 1 got within sight of the power generator, and Veers gave Vader the OK for landings, as shortly after he fired upon the generator and Echo Base's last defense fell. Almost instantaneously, Blizzard 1 was disabled when a damaged airspeeder, flown by Derek Clivian, crashed into its cockpit, severely injuring Veers and knocking it out of the fight, but it had done its damage. Vader soon made landfall near the base, accompanied by a small retinue of snowtroopers, and joined the main assault by punching a hole into the base on the eastern side of the mountain. From there, the battle turned into a wholesale slaughter, with many scrambling to the remaining transports, while Vader searched for Rebel Command and Skywalker. During this chaos, many of the rebels escaped from the south entrance in the Claburn Range to the evacuation site behind the South Ridge, which the Empire had neither found nor guarded, while the rest put up a makeshift defense, albeit not intentionally. Among them was the Twilight Company and its captain, Avan. Their resistance continued until Vader found and killed most of them, including the captain. But the ultimate goal of the Emperor's enforcer, the crew of the Millennium Falcon and Rebel Command, escaped, with the grounded Skywalker taking an X-Wing, while the Imperial forces ransacked the base for information, ending the engagement. The Battle of Hoth was a devastating blow for the Rebel Alliance. While not as costly as Mako-Ta in terms of men and material, this was another hard blow, creating a feeling that nowhere was safe for the rebels. 17 GR-75 transports and Echo Base were lost, and thousands of rebels had died or were scattered, while the Empire had lost as little as 7 walkers and 500 men. Still, Vader's insistence on immediate action without having done any scouting, and a poor blockade of the planet, led to many of the rebels escaping. The remnants scattered and went to secret locations where they would be given a rendezvous point and be able to meet up again. The rebels were defeated yet again, but not destroyed, and their next plan would not only turn their demoralizing streak of defeats, but the whole war on its head. Thanks again to our sponsor, Established Titles. Buy a small plot of land in Scotland and become a lady or a lord, or give this title as an amazing and easy gift. In return, Established Titles plants a tree to protect the pristine forests of our planet. Take advantage of their fall sale and use our discount code WIZARDS at establishedtitles.com/wizards to get a further 10% off. Our next video in the series will be on the Battle of Sullust, also known as the Siege of Inyusu, and we're planning to cover battles throughout many fantasy universes and sci-fi sagas, so make sure you have subscribed and pressed the bell button. Please consider liking and sharing, as that helps immensely. We'll try to read and respond to every comment, as we want to see what you think about this video and which videos you hope to see in the future. This is the Wizards and Warriors channel, and we'll catch you on the next one.